What's up, guys? Spiritual Lemonade back with another video. You guys know the drill. We're going to get into everything that I listened to album-wise, project-wise, EP, all that stuff that I listened to this week in Christian music. It covers Christian rap, Christian contemporary music, folk, literally everything. And I'll just give you my breakdown of everything, starting from May 23rd, so everything that dropped. And then there's also probably going to be a few sprinkled in here and there that I have gone back and re-listened to, whether on vinyl from my vinyl collection or just an album that I listened to on Spotify. So let's get right into this first one, which is Big Daddy Weave. Big Daddy is what I call him for short. But we got a new album from them called Let It Begin. And I'll be honest, this is my first time listening to an entire album from Big Daddy Weave, so I don't have much to base off of from the past. I just know them from being on the radio, and that's pretty much what you get here, is just a bunch of very stereotypical, generic kind of sounding Christian radio hits, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just not my personal taste. I gave it a 2.5 out of 5 stars just for that reason. There were even a few songs, like in my review that I wrote here on Music Board, on songs like Free and what was the other one, Lions and Eagles, where to me the songwriting was just very cringe. It was like lions roar, eagles soar, something like that, and it just like we're born to be wild and free or something. I don't know, it just didn't hit for me, so that's kind of why I gave it a 2.5 out of 5 star review. But the redeeming qualities in this album come from songs Jaybird and This Is Not the End. Jaybird is actually the first song where it was like, oh wow, this is really, really good. It was super sad. I like really sad songs, so it's kind of why I liked it too. But it's about someone who has passed away, and then going into this next song called This Is Not the End has a very hopeful message that it isn't the end. So I really enjoyed those two songs together back to back. Really good track listing there. And then the other song I want to talk about on this project is Constantly. When I listened to that song, I was like, man, the lyrics are so good. And even the melody, like I could tell what the melody was going for. If you gave this to someone else, this is going to sound pretty like harsh, but I feel like the singer, whoever the singer is on Big Daddy Weave, did not do the song justice. I think if someone else took it who could hit the higher notes that whoever was singing was trying to hit, this could be a banger, and maybe a little bit reproduced as well, because it did also have a pretty generic production behind it as well. So I think that if that song got reworked, maybe remixed or re-recorded by someone else, that would be an absolute banger. That's pretty much all my thoughts on the new Big Daddy Weave project. Let's go into this next one. Victory Lap by Elevation Rhythm. This is an album that's been probably in the works for a while. They've dropped several singles beforehand and then finally dropped it this week. We got features from Joel Barnes. Obviously, he's on a lot of stuff with them. Gracie Binion, who I just realized is also MDSN, Madison, I think is how you pronounced it. She was dropping back in like 2018, I feel like, and she had a song called Kerosene that I loved. I loved that song. And someone in the group chat that I'm in on Music Board was like, yeah, you know, Gracie Binion used to be MDSN. And I was like, what? The person who sang Kerosene? And he was like, yeah, which is pretty crazy. And then I looked more into her story, which is really cool. Charles Weems, Tiffany Hudson, which I do recognize Tiffany Hudson, the GOAT of worship music, Abby Gamboa, and Zach Webb. A lot of really cool features. I gave it a 4 out of 5 actually on this. And if I were to go back and revisit the other album that they dropped, I forget what it was called, but it had Growing Pains on it. I feel like that album was a 4.5 out of 5, and this is a 4. So it's just a slight notch down. Not really for any particular reason other than I connected a lot more to the songs on their first album. But I obviously connected with the songs on this one as well. But there were maybe like 1 or 2 skips for me on this project. But as a whole, a lot of really crazy energy on this. I loved the songwriting and I loved the features as well. They always pick really good features. So that was Victory Lap by Elevation Rhythm. Let's see the next one. Dream Again by Brad and Rebecca, CCV Music, and Watoto. And this album, I did not expect anything going into this. I was just assuming it was going to be just another live recorded worship album. It actually started off really, really strong. Like the first 4 to 5 songs were absolute bangers, and I liked them specifically because they weren't like 10 to 13 minute songs. It had like an actual like interesting production behind it, and also this is a live recorded album in like I think Uganda or something, somewhere in Africa. This was a live recorded album, so there was a lot of energy from the crowd and everything, which I really liked as well. But then towards the end, it was like 7, 8, 9 minute long songs, which isn't bad. It just gets a little repetitive with worship music because it's not like a Bob Dylan song where it's like 13 minutes long and it's just telling one big story. It's just repeating the same lyrics over and over again for that long. So I gave this a 3.5 out of 5, which is pretty high for a worship album. This is probably up there for my top 3 favorite worship albums I've listened to and rated this year. So shout out to them. Next up, we have Back Row Hero Punch Edition by Gavin the Hot Rod. If you haven't listened to Back Row Hero, you got to go listen to that first. I did a reaction to that. You can go watch it on my channel. But this is a 6-track EP. I guess it's kind of like it's not a deluxe edition because it's not with the other songs on the project. But, man, he came with the bars. He came with the storytelling on this one. Let's see. We had features from Scooty Wop, which he's also dropping in a couple months, which is going to be crazy. We got DJ Mike LV, Jared Sanders, and Social Club Misfits. So it's a stacked lineup of features. Florida Boy was one of my favorites on this one. And then also Call It. That was crazy. And also he had Social Club Misfits on there, which is pretty much a given because now he's signed to Marty's label. So shout out to Gavin the Hot Rod for that. I gave this a solid 3 out of 5 just because it was like a short project. It didn't have as much to go off of, I feel like, because like the first track was just 39 seconds, the other one was 24 seconds, so there's really only 4 songs here to judge. So that's really the only reason. It's a solid project. Like the lyrics are crazy, the bars, the production, next level production. We need more production like this in Christian rap. And then what else was I gonna say? Production. Oh, and the mix. His mixes are always crazy. Like for some reason, I don't know what he does on his vocals, but they're always like super. He's got like a nice grit and rasp to his voice, but it's also very smooth and like rich. So I don't know what he's doing, what he's recording on, but it always sounds fire. Shout out to Gavin the Hot Rod. Let's see what we got next. We got Reset 2 by D'Aris and Will Kellum. I hope I pronounced that correctly. This was a short project, an EP of 5 tracks. And I gave this a 2.5 out of 5. To be honest, the mix was really well done on this. The audio quality was really well done. We had a feature from Marty from Social Club Misfits. And I'm not sure who K-Diamond is, but he was a feature on this as well. It just felt like very generic lyrics from both D'Aris and Will Kellum. Generic meaning like I've heard these lyrics said before a million times, especially in the early part of Christian rap. I feel like we've heard so much of the same lyrics from the early part of when Christian rap was just starting. I feel like for Christian rap as a whole, we need to move away from that and start making new, refreshing lyrics and bars. And I understand this is also, I say this a lot when I talk about that specific critique. This is more ministry music over just like making art. So I totally understand where they're coming from. They're coming from like a ministry standpoint. So there's that also comes into play because ministry rap doesn't really have double entendres and stuff. It's more about the message, which is what this project was. It was just about good messages. So I just gave it a 2.5 out of 5 just for that reason, because I probably won't revisit this project. Next up, we got Prototype by Daraj, I think is how you pronounce it. I've tapped into his music for a long time. And this was kind of a different style for me with him. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. And all I have to say is bro is trying so hard to be the song choice for a Dude Perfect video, for real. It was a solid project, like really good production. It was just very anthemic, very kind of like rock production with like rap music. I don't know. For me, it's just not exactly my vibe. He's got a bunch of other music that I love and listen to. And I liked this enough to give it a 3 out of 5. For me, I prefer like when he does either his singing stuff or his rap stuff, not the mix of like rock or whatever. Next up, we got Closer by Iconic Joy. And this was a roller coaster of thoughts when I was listening to this. I was like, oh my word, this is really good. It could be a Christian album. And I think it is a Christian album, but there's a couple songs where he cusses on it. We had a feature from Jacob Adams, a couple features actually, and Lil Capo. I recognize both those names. But this project was like, this guy, Iconic Joy, he is talented. There's no denying it. He has a crazy good voice. He sings kind of like R&B on this for most of it, and then he taps into some rap as well. But his voice is so smooth, melodically really good. And I think it sounded like he had beat tags on all of the beats for this, so he might have also like produced the whole thing as well. So he's obviously super talented, but for me the lyrics sometimes were a little either too wordy or also came across a little bit like low quality. And for such a long album, it was 20 tracks and like an hour and something minutes long. I feel like maybe a little bit more time could have been spent in the actual writing of some of the songs. So I gave it a 2.5 out of 5, but I fully expect if he drops another project and continues growing as an artist, he will have a much higher rating in the future. So shout out to Iconic Joy. Next up, we have the one and only Efo. He dropped a project called Check Engine with the producer Dippy, I think, prod by Dippy. And this is an interesting album to talk about this time because this is the second time on the channel I'm bringing up Efo. The first time I kind of went crazy and like critiqued the heck out of him on one of his projects that he dropped earlier this year, I think. But that didn't deter me from like not listening anymore to his music. I still will definitely be tapping in. But he dropped this project called Check Engine, which was a huge step up in my opinion from the last one that I listened to. Like, I just enjoyed this 100 times more than I did the other project. And my issue with the other one that he dropped earlier this year was the content in the lyrics about kind of the way like a lot of underground artists talk about women when they're, you know, rapping or whatever. But there was not really much of that, and there were still a few like demon killing kind of bars in here, but for the most part, like, this was just hands down, there's no denying the fire on this project. We had features from Kappa, Justice H&M, or Justice HSM, Dela Cruz, Koo, we're going to be talking about him too. But yeah, super solid project. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars, which is a lot higher than I think I gave the other one. I might have even given it a 2 the last time, so he's gone up by 1.5 stars. So shout out to Efo on this one. I loved the production. All original beats, I think, which is another issue we'll talk about when it comes to the Koo album. But I'm pretty sure all the songs and beats were produced by Dippy, and they were all original. So that also helped with the rating as well. Let's see. I think the Koo album's next. Yep. Koo Season Volume 4. This was 15 tracks. It was an album. And for me, Koo is a hit or miss artist as well. He's an underground artist. There were a lot of good features on here. Debris, The Godson, 404 Chew, Main 2 Wavy, Lil Lil Capo or Lil Capo. I don't know how to pronounce it. Lil Ziggy also kind of looks familiar, but there were several songs that did not have original beats and didn't have production credits, so I don't even know if there was sample clearance for them, which is just an issue that I have, is like just use an original beat, in my opinion, instead of like completely stealing someone else's that's like mainstream and then putting it out as if it's your own and not giving any credits or anything, even if you don't have the copyright thing cleared or whatever. At least, you know, credit the actual producer. But overall, I gave it a 2.5 out of 5. I think that there were just other, honestly, songs that I've liked more from him in the past. There were definitely some bangers on here, but for the most part, like, I'm not gonna like listen over and over again to someone else's beat with different lyrics on it. So that's just my main critique with this one. Next up, we got Back Against the Wall by HROB. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. H-Rob. This was a crazy like list of features. I can't even list them all right now. It'll take too long. This one for me was probably one of the lower rated albums of the week so far. There was just such a crazy difference song to song with like mix quality, beat quality, audio, like vocal quality and all that. It was just so inconsistent that I just couldn't give it anything higher than a 1.5 star. Like, let me see if I can find an example. There was one called, I think it might have been Zone, that was like, it stood out so much compared to the other songs. I was like, is this a different album? Because it's so good. It sounded like a Don Toliver song. I can't remember. Maybe it was So and Reap. I'm blanking on which song it was. But yeah, when there's an album like that, I can't rate it super high because I want better for this artist. I don't know if I've talked about him on the channel before, but this is like the second time I've listened to him. So I just want to see him continue growing as an artist, and maybe cut back so many features, because that can also hurt, as like when you put an album out and it's just like all features and not yourself. We want to hear more of the actual artist. At least I do. I don't want to talk for everyone. But yeah, that was Back Against the Wall by H-Rob. Next up, we got God Is Real by Clayton Jennings. And this was not a rap album. This was actually a spoken word album. And I was not expecting that. I didn't know it was spoken word. So it took me about halfway through the album to realize, oh, this isn't supposed to be rap. This is spoken word. So once I realized that, I appreciated this a lot more. We had a feature from Blake Whitley, which is an artist I was not expecting to see on this. He did, what was it, the Gucci Gang remix, like a long time ago. Let's see, Consumed, Breakthrough. Bro, I used to listen to Blake Whitley all the time. So I definitely liked that feature on there. I gave this album a 3 out of 5 stars. That's probably as high as I would really go for a spoken word album, unless it was like really just changing the whole kind of genre of spoken word. That's probably the highest I'd give a spoken word right now at the moment. But yeah, for what it is, it was a really solid project. 3 out of 5 stars on that one. I'm gonna go back to the ones I revisited. So next up is Psalms into Hood by Rich Dan Famous. This was the first album, I think, from him as well that I listened to all the way through. If I remember correctly, I remember he was on the Reach Records summer playlist a couple years ago. And around that time is when he was kind of going viral on TikTok and Instagram. And there was one specific song that I know was like going crazy at the time. It was like, Lord forgive me for my sins, blessed be thy name, your will be done, something like that. It was based off of the Bible verse, and for some reason I just hated, like, I think there were a few lyrics outside of that Bible verse that he was saying in the song that I just totally did not agree with. So I just like was kind of turned off to his music for a little bit. But now that I'm, giving fair chances to everyone at this point, I gave it a listen, and I actually was pretty blown away by the super like solid heavy hitting production, and his vocal mix as well, like very crisp and clear vocals. I gave it a 3 out of 5 because I think that there could be better music from him in the future. I would hope for that. But it's a solid listen. I would go back to some of these songs and put them in a playlist. So shout out to Rich Dan Famous. Next one that I want to talk about is not explicitly Christian, but I believe this artist is a Christian. He just doesn't make Christian music. But he goes by the name of Bren. He dropped a EP called Upstate this week, and he's like a folk artist. He's pretty similar to Henrik, where at this point Henrik doesn't talk too much about his faith. Every once in a while he'll drop a song that talks about his faith, but he's not making explicitly Christian music at this point, and this is kind of the similar thing to Bren. But this was a super solid project. Like, for folk music, this is what you want to be listening to. So I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars on this one. Super solid EP. I just wanted to talk about him. Even though he's not necessarily a Christian artist, I do think he is a Christian. So I just wanted to sprinkle that in there this week. Next up, we got Rookie 99 by K-Man Raps. This was a EP coming off of his hiatus. This is the first thing that he's dropped since taking a break, and I was excited for it. He started off with a bar-heavy half of it. Sunny Days with Surge, we'll go back and talk about that one. Majestic Worship, which was a really cool, just super heavy on the worship. I mean, it's in the title. Worship / rap kind of song, which I really liked. And then Crutches, Know It. The only song on here that I wasn't a fan of was Sunny Days. I did enjoy the trumpets and like the experimental thing with the trumpets there, but for some reason, I don't know whose end that would be on, but the difference between the audio quality from Surge and K-Man Raps is a little too different, and just like the level of volume isn't the same throughout that song. So I probably wouldn't listen to it again just for that reason. I know Surge is a brand new artist, so it could be that like he's just getting into it, so I can't go too heavy on the critiques for that, because I do want to see him make more music and drop more. But that was really the only thing with the whole project. Crutches was my favorite song, I think, on the project. It had the highest quality of everything. The vocals were super loud, like I want from K-Man. The bars were crazy. The energy was crazy. There was a beat switch. And then for Majestic and half of it, those were also just as good of a song as Crutches. The vocals were just a little quieter than I would probably prefer them to be. So I was kind of between a 2.5 to 3 out of 5, but I lean more towards a 3 out of 5 star on this one. If you're looking for a nice EP full of like super fire bars, this is the EP for you. All right, we got a few that I listened to on my vinyls this week. We got Get Out of the Way of Your Own Heart by Chris Renzema. He's also a folk artist, but he is a Christian folk artist. Like, all of his music is Christian, and it kind of is delivered in kind of like a different way. Very thought-provoking lyrics and just very soulful, like songwriting and delivery. I really enjoy this album. This was the first time going through and actually listening to everything, like all the songs on this. We had an Ellie Holcomb feature, Matt Maher. So yeah, it was a super solid project. Like, this is super high quality stuff, just as good as Bren, the other artist we just talked about. I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. We got 2 more. Next one is Work in Progress by Andy Mineo. I just got the vinyl as well. You guys saw in my last vinyl video. And oh wait, actually no, you didn't, because I didn't make that video yet. That's coming out soon, by the end of May, which this video drops the day before. So it might be tomorrow when you see the video for the vinyls. But this was released back in 2019, which is crazy. It feels like just not that long ago that this came out. But it's been quite some time. It's been like 6 years, 22 tracks. Just listening to it again, this was the first time I've listened to this all the way through. I used to like just skip through the podcast clips and all that. And even some of the other songs like Till Death, I wasn't always a huge fan of that. So Gone, Family Photo, that one also. The specific version on this I would just skip, but it's got bangers like Another Me with Gavi on production, I Don't Need You, Keep It Moving, OTOD, Reflections. Like there's just too many to deny that this is a super solid project. And this just has so many different random scattered thoughts that for me it works because it's called Work in Progress. But I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars, which is still really good. It is just so many collections of different thoughts and ideas put into one project. But yeah, super solid listen. I'm glad I got that on vinyl. And the other one, which you will see in the video tomorrow if you watch this all the way through, is Exit by Anike. She was Wande at the time this released, so on the vinyl it says by Wande, but it is actually by Anike. And for me, like I also have the other Anike, the new album from her, on vinyl that I'll show you tomorrow in the vinyl video I drop. And that is just like so much better of an album, better of a project than anything that I personally think that she's ever dropped. So she's had a few EPs here and there, and just nothing as good as that album. So there were really only a couple songs on here that I really, really like and would listen to again. Wakande, Ben Up, and then Iconic was also good. And Be the Light was one that I wouldn't listen to all the time, but it would fit into a few playlists that I have really well. The other songs for me just didn't really hit that hard, so I gave it a 2.5 out of 5 stars. I believe she's just put out a lot better music since this. Even some of her singles like Blessed Up and stuff like that just washes most of this project in my opinion. So yeah, that's everything I listened to from May 23rd all the way. I mean, it's only May 25th at the time I'm recording this. So that's everything I listened to in that span of time. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I want to hear everyone's reviews. If I missed a project, let me know in the comments. I will maybe try and catch up and put that in next week's video. If you guys disagree with me, let me know. I want to hear everyone's thoughts and opinions too. This is just my personal opinion on music. You guys might have something different. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Go be fruitful. Let's go.